Welcome to another informative video of the serial designer. And today on public demand, we have a very interesting concept which I'm going to discuss. The concept is about the idea of site analysis. A site analysis is typically done at the start of a design process. Now, a design process consists of various steps. For example, having a case study, studying about the client, noting down the client brief, making a design, and then submitting a presentation pitch. Site analysis will help you understand the existing conditions in its best way possible. आपको उसका character समझना पड़ता है before designing in any place. उसका neighborhood क्या है? Just to give you a gist of it, say for example you are designing a Scandinavian themed restaurant in some place, say in Mumbai, in town. But do you think the character of the space demands that? Do you think the character will accompany you with the idea of Scandinavian culture? No, right? So it's very important to understand the site to make an informed design. Informed design का मतलब क्या होता है? Informed design मतलब आपने as a designer सोच समझ के डिज़ाइन किया गया है, वो एरिया को मद्देनजर रखते हुए आपने डिज़ाइन किया है. So for that there is a proper process which is called the site analysis process. Today we are going to discuss 6 to 7 ways in which you can make a very good and decent site analysis. But before we move ahead, please make sure you click on the subscribe button and also make sure to write any ideas in the comment section. Thank you. I am architect Devanshi Choksi and welcome to The Serial Designer. So the process I am laying down for you can be used for architects as well as interior designers. Also, you can use it at your academic level as well. Say for example, you are in the third, second or the fourth year. You can always refer to this video and understand on how to do an informed case site analysis. Let me break the site analysis in various parts. First, we understand its site location. क्यों site location इतना ज़रूरी है? Why do you understand the site at first? You should know where your site is. You should know what are the roads beside it. You should know which zone does it fall into. Say for example, for this, you can use your own Google Maps. You can use a Google Earth. What you need to do is something that is shown on screen. You need to highlight that bit of it and you need to highlight that site so that a person understanding knows that where is this particularly located. If you look closely, this second image will give you an overview as to what are the immediate roads, what are the immediate zones, what are the things which are necessary within your area. Say for example, this sketch you can directly do by just taking an A4 size printout of your Google Earth map, and then you can just directly pinpoint as to what are the different and important nodes in your area. Say for example, if you are doing a residential apartment, but you should understand where your residential apartment is located. Is it located overlooking a green zone? Is it located in, say for example, a commercial complex? We take Lakshmi Industrial Estate as our area. Now, is your residential property located right beside it? So that zone falls under a commercial area. You should know the dynamics of that space. To understand this traffic dynamics, even the nearest metro stations, everything has to be noted before you start your site analysis. In a few of these images, you can see how nodes are marked. You can very well use highlighters, alcohol markers, even within your grayscale of your own printout. You can have your own legend. You can mark at your own convenience. Say for example, you can use dashed lines, arrows, highlighters, large points, green points, brown points. You can use a couple of symbols of your own. Say for example, आपको कोई landmark mark करना है. Say for example, there's a hospital right beside your apartment. So what you can do is you can mark that hospital in like a blue asterisk or something, or a red asterisk, and you can show that name. This is one of the landmarks which are to be noted. For example, you are working with your builders, you are working with the firm, and they want to know that why is this area a prime location. They want to make a graphic for it. So you can very well use your site analysis documents and make them a very good graphic. Similarly, for academic level, understanding the character of a space, understanding where the house is located, understanding where that property is located is extremely important. Now, these icons are called iconographs. Iconography is very important when it comes to architectural and interior designers. We do not represent through words, we represent through symbols, we represent through drawings. This is our visual language. This is how we work. So nearest metro station, walking distances, nearest roads, transports, vehicle accesses. All these things can be marked with these. Now say for example, if you have a couple of things which you have to note, if you want to represent in a very unique way, then you can use these iconographs as well, wherein some activity mapping is going on around your area. Say for example, there's a good garden beside your area, there's a good bakery which one should visit, there is some cycle track which one should note. This is also something which you can do. Again, as you can see, Google Maps are only used as a base drawing, and different ways and variations of drawings are made. Step 2 of understanding your site, we have a site analysis measurement sheet. Now, a measurement sheet is extremely important. If you want to start your drawing, if you want to know, you should know your boundary. You should know where your boundary or your scope ends. So understanding what is the measurement of your site, understanding the dimensions, understanding how much space do you have to design is extremely important. Architecture, you can make some diagram like this, and for interiors you will get the plans from the builder as well, which are somewhat looking like this, and you will get dimensions with it, you will get measurements with it, and of course when you go on site you can check these dimensions before starting out your design. The third important thing when it comes to site analysis is understanding the weather conditions of that site, understanding the climate that space has, understanding the orientation of that site. Say for example, it's a bungalow project, you should know whether your bungalow is east-west facing, north-south facing, just to understand the sun angles, just to understand where do you have to create shade, where will you have shadow. All these things are very important when it comes to designing. At the top of my head, I have an example. मान लीजिए आपको एक बंगलो डिजाइन करने के लिए दी है. Now, the client thinks that he wants French windows within the site. Now, the bungalow is east facing. East में सुबह के time, if you have French windows, you will receive a major amount of sunlight. So before designing for that client or before pitching, you will have to understand that if your client wants French windows, you will have to find different solutions. For example, blackout curtain डाल दिया आपने, or for example आपने trees plant कर दिए within that area just to create a little bit more shade and avoid that harsh sunlight from the east. So this is very important when it comes to understanding the orientation. You can make a rough sketch like this. Now note, this sketch is definitely made in some kind of a BIM model. What you can do is just upload your image, it's a SketchUp model, or be it a block model, just upload it and understand what is the site dynamics. A north sign is extremely important when it comes to understanding. You must have heard architects and interior designers always have this in their format. One very underrated thing which we as designers do forget are the views from the site. Does your site have undesirable views? Does your site have some very beautiful views which you want to highlight? Now, while designing, you notice that one of the sites has a very undesirable view. Say for example, you can have your kitchen and your other dry areas placed on that side. Now, for example, you have a nice forest view. Probably you would want your living room to be created on that particular side. So understanding this dynamics well before the design is very important. So you have to mark your undesirable views and general views from the site. You can make a sketch for it, or you can just click photographs of existing conditions and just place it on your plan. Another important thing when it comes to site analysis is understanding ventilations and understanding its section. What you can do is make a rough section. Say for example, you have an existing site. Just make a rough section to understand what is the wind analysis of the site, what are the sun dynamics, सबसे ज़्यादा हवा कौन सी तरफ से आती है. I understand in interior projects we do not have that angle to think of, but you should know. You can make a couple of sketches when it comes to understanding the wind and the sun path diagrams. As I told you, sun path and wind are very important when it comes to taking design decisions. कि कौन सी साइड पे आपको विंडो चाहिए, कौन सी साइड पे आपको कौन से सर्विसेज चाहिए, कौन सी साइड पे आपको व्यूज क्रिएट करने हैं, दिन में कौन सी साइड पे आपको ज़्यादा सनलाइट आएगी, कौन सी साइड पे आपको ज़्यादा हवा आएगी, कौन सी साइड पे आपको हवा नहीं आएगी. Being a designer, all these small minute decisions of your design are taken already in your site analysis. So while you're doing your site analysis at its best, in your mind you have already designed 20 to 30% of the house or the bungalow. Next very important thing is take before and after images. Always take good existing images of your site. Say for example, a lot of us do forget to take before images. Then post after we design, we want to see how our area looks. Suddenly you realize you haven't taken images which you can compare. You should always have your camera with you. when you go for a site visit, take existing pictures as much as possible. Take existing pictures of the views, take existing pictures of the site. Even at your academic level, before your project are taken on site, before understanding on how to design it, please take your camera with you, just so that later you can compare after and before your design. For example, you have gone on an architectural case study. It is impossible for you to create drawings which are definitely the plans of the entire space. What you can do is you can create a comic doodle kind of a thing, wherein you create and you imagine that these are the different spaces, these are the different levels, and you want to note down a few spaces. You have gone on site the first time. You get to go on site probably once or twice before you start designing. Making the most use of it, make random doodle sketches. Even at your academic level, you can present these sketches as a precursor to design, just to get a few ideas and to do a few brainstorming sessions. These are some of the sketches which are very important when it comes to doing a very good and an accurate site analysis. You can do a very rough sketch. You can understand the measurements of it. You can understand what is the existing character of that site. Say for example, it's an old building and they have beautiful arched windows. Do you want that to be a part of your design, right? You want that character to be a part of your design. What will you do? You will first mark on the existing conditions. You will understand the site at its fullest and then go and design it. All you need is just a sketchbook and a pen, and you can do these sketches directly on site. Being a designer, you're pro at it. Even at your academic level, something like this as a pre-study will always help you have those brownie points. Even in your portfolio, this shows that you are a quick designer. This shows that you have a sense that you can sketch before you actually start designing. Another very good important thing which you can do is do a good activity mapping. Site activity mapping is very important. You should know what is going on in and around your site. Are there gardens beside your site? Is there an ice cream truck standing beside your site? Are there school children running here and there? What are the different activities? Are there a lot of restaurants? Are there a lot of cafes? You should know the different activities right below your site as well as in and around the site, because you as a designer do not want to hamper with the existing character and existing players of that site. You will never build something which will spoil the current dynamics of that place. You do not want to hamper with the existing people on that site. Your design should be such that it blends within the landscape of that particular site. You as a designer have to be strong enough so that your design becomes an actual part of the design and does not disturb the airflow, the people flow, and the idea of that sense of space. The sense of the space is very important before you actually start designing. When it comes to interiors, say for example you are doing an interiors of a school, say for example you are designing a library, you need to understand what are the different zones in which your area is located. You need to mark, you need to color code them, and you need to understand through diagrams and through small sketches wherein you can understand what is the existing character of that particular site. As I have already mentioned, there are a couple of ways in which you can do activity mapping, and you can do views from the site. You can use photographs, you can use existing iconographs, you can use activity zones. All these things are already available on the internet, and you can pick up inspiration from anywhere. Now, to understand the radius of that particular site is also very crucial. What is there in the 500-meter radius of that particular site? Are there any important nodes which you have to mark? Is there a highway? Is there a metro station? Is there a beautiful restaurant? What is there in your particular zone is something which you need to mark. Say you're designing a corner building office. Being a designer, you are sensitive to understanding that there is going to be a lot of traffic on that particular node. So understanding it well in advance is very important. You can put acoustic panels in your office accordingly, so to avoid the extra noise which is created by the traffic signal. When it comes to site analysis, these are some of the graphics which are very important. Say for example, image it, road hai, boundary hai, bushes hai, landscape hai. So these are some of the architectural and interior symbols which are well known, and you can design your site analysis accordingly. As I've already mentioned, while designing or while doing a site analysis, there are some things which will pop up in your head as a designer. You need to make a few reference sketches for the same, so that while you're designing, you will not forget these. Say for example, you want your living room to be facing some kind of a beautiful view. You have to make a small sketch with reference to that, so that when you sit and actually design, that reference point is already noted in your site analysis and you can go back and forth in that process. The idea is to just note down and remember, but graphically, but through a sketch, because you're a designer, you need to represent yourself in the best way possible. Say for example that bungalow is located in Mathiran. Say for example that bungalow is located along the Konkan belt. Now you should know what are the different materials which are located in that particular area. You could use locally available laterite, you could use locally available materials, bricks or a kiln. Now this also is very sensitive when it comes to designing. You should always end up using the locally available materials. You should know the locally available vendors in the interiors as well. Because you want to save on your transport costs, first you can do an area study of what are the different materials which are already existing in and around the site. You can make a small built environment model wherein you have marked the important spaces in and around your site, which could help you probably procure the materials of the site and also save on transportation costs. Now, while doing a site analysis, as I've already mentioned, 20 to 30% of your design decisions have been already taken as a designer. What you could do is just draw a small bubble diagram, do a doodle diagram. There are n number of ways in which you can show these random sketches. Somebody can do a small doodle, somebody can do an area study. On the internet, you will find a couple of activities already in motion. If you just want to make a quick collage of it, okay, these are the activities which probably I want to add in my design, because you've already taken the design decision, you can also make a collage of it. Once you are done with your site analysis, there are a couple of decisions which you need to take, whether you want to do cooling, whether you want to do heating. These are called site responsive elements. Site responsive का मतलब क्या होता है? जैसा आपका site है वैसा आपका design भी होना चाहिए. Now, just to understand a few site analysis, responsive sketches have been attached on further, which are flashing on the screen. What you can do is just understand where your design falls best. You will find this readily available on the internet. This is something you need to consider while designing. Looking at these, you can make your own sketches. If you can make 2 or 3 sketches which are randomly related to these site responses: heating, cooling, sun angles, cross ventilation, hot humid conditions, hot arid conditions, temperate conditions, tropical conditions. What if your area or the site is glazed? And how natural ventilation or your site dynamics work. What are the shade areas? What are the areas which are not shaded during the day? Now the next step, which is very important, is understanding the time you are going to site. Make sure you go to site in the morning, that is the first half of the day, as well as the second half of the day. दिन में कुछ अलग दिखता है site, रात में probably कुछ अलग दिखता है site. Say for example, if I take a commercial area. Now when I go to a commercial area in the morning, the first half it is bustling, probably with street vendors, traffic, and there's a lot of chaos. But the same area I visit in the evening, it's probably a very toned down area. Why? Because the people who are working have already gone to their homes. So the site dynamics are completely different during the day as well as the night. The quality of light and ventilation will also change during the different parts of the day. So make sure you visit the site twice before actually designing it. Last but not the least, do a SWOT analysis. A typical SWOT analysis is very simple to do. What are the 2 positives of that site? What are the 2 negatives of that site? Understanding what risks could happen. Understanding what are the threats one could face. Just to top it off, take our bungalow example, our east facing bungalow. The strength is that it's going to get natural sunlight all throughout the day. Its probable weakness is that it will get harsh sunlight. So for that, you can always plant more trees on the east side. Say if it's a forest facing site, a threat could be maybe forest fires or extreme heat, or maybe more rainfall on that particular zone. An opportunity could be the beautiful view it frames for your living room. So understanding what are the different strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats to your site. As I've already mentioned, The more accurate you do your site analysis, 20-30% of your design is already done. Just because a good designer will always make a design which blends to its surroundings, which blends with the actual regional context of that particular area. The mentors or your seniors will keep telling you that why are you designing in such a way? Why are they such good designers? That is because their design actually blends with the existing condition of that particular area. You have to understand the context of that area. You have to understand where that area is located. You need to highlight the best of that site and you need to hide the negative of that site. So to understand this, a site analysis, a good site analysis is going to give you mind-blowing results when it comes to designing. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and never miss another update from us. Also, let me know how this video was in the comment section. Thank you.